Hi, my name is Matt Killen, and this is Donuts with Matt. I'm sitting here with David Cobb. He is the national spokesperson for Move to Amend. They're trying to get an amendment to the Constitution to end money in politics. David's been working for years to make this happen. He's been growing a national grassroots movement and moving towards a amendment to get money out of politics using the Constitution. How you doing this morning?
I'm good, Matt. The one thing I do want to clarify is, yes, we want to get money out of elections, and we want to abolish the idea that corporations have constitutional rights. The right to give money in elections, the right to overturn environmental protection laws. Corporations are businesses. They should exist. We encourage their existence, but they don't have constitutional rights.
Okay, well, thanks for that clarification. Now, when you say that a business has constitutional right, what does that mean exactly?
Well, that's a good question, Matt, and let's actually make sure that we have some common understanding about a constitutional right at all. After all, like, you as a human being have constitutional rights under our system. So do I, so does every viewer of this program. And those rights are sacred. They're sacrosanct. What it means is there are certain things that you and I and they can do that government has no influence over. It doesn't matter if the majority wants us to go to a particular church or synagogue or mosque.
Right.
We can exercise religion or not at all as we see fit.
Mm-hmm.
That's our constitutional right. We can associate with who we want to or not. That's our constitutional right. We can say or think what we want. That's our right. You get my point? There are things that we as human beings have an inherent and alienable right to do, and we don't need the majority's opinion. The political sphere, the public process, doesn't apply to our individual rights. So I believe that. I'm sure you believe it. This is a very important idea. But Matt, corporations are... Oh, and by the way, a constitutional right, what you're arguing in law, as a lawyer I'll tell you, if you're asserting a constitutional right, what you're saying is that some law is infringing upon your ability to exercise your constitutional right. In other words, a law that forbids women from voting because of their gender would violate their constitutional right. A law forbidding black family from moving into a certain community would violate their constitutional right to associate. We could go down the list, but to assert a constitutional right means that there is some public process or public law that is interfering with your protected rights.
Okay, I understand. So it's when we give a corporation personhood, does that entitle them to run for president?
Well, that's
Could the
interesting.
corporation itself run for president?
So, well, actually, there is a public relations firm running for president now. It's a great political stunt meant to demonstrate how foolish the idea of corporate personhood is. But remember, the concept of corporate personhood is a shorthand for the idea of corporations having constitutional rights. Corporation is obviously not a person, right? I mean, that's just clear. Now, I do believe that corporations should be able to sue or be sued. I believe that corporations should be allowed to exist. I believe that corporations even have statutory rights, which is if there's a political process to decide what a corporation can or cannot do, then that business should be able to make determinations based on the political process giving them those rights and authorizations. But again, a corporation should never be able to go into court to argue to overturn any law. Not an environmental protection law, not a worker safety law, not a public health law, and not a campaign finance law. And yet, corporate constitutional rights allows them to do so.
Now, how is it that they're allowed to, say, give giant sums of money to make these efforts happen?
Because there are two legal doctrines that move to amend concerns ourselves. The one we've talked about, corporations having constitutional rights. The second is the idea that money is First Amendment protected political speech. And that has basically come to mean that the wealthy and powerful can spend literally unlimited amounts of money in our election systems. Your viewers may have heard of the Supreme Court decision Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission. Maybe the McCutcheon versus Federal Election Commission. Been a whole series of cases that have now unleashed a flood of money, including corporate money, into our elections in ways that we've never seen before. And I think it's important to recognize that corporate super PACs and individual super PACs are actually playing an illegitimate role in our elections now.
Wow, it's interesting. You know, I love corporations. I do. I love being able to decide which one of the 20 Walmarts I want to go to today, or, you know, have all the choice that I want. And I do. I love exactly what they offer. I just don't like how they're exactly running their business, changing our laws, and treating their people. Like, for instance, I love Dunkin' Donuts. I love donuts. I love their coffee. I love everything about it. But I've, you know, recently found out that they even have a super PAC.
It's true, they do.
Yeah.
And like you, Matt, I think that Dunkin' Donuts makes a fine coffee.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It is really good coffee.
Untouchable.
It's really
It's the best.
It's really good coffee. I don't know, my local coffee, independently owned coffee shop may be the best, but I enjoy Dunkin' Donuts. I have nothing against the idea of Dunkin' Donuts existing, or any other corporation existing.
Right.
The point is not to be anti-corporate. We have moved to amend, simply say corporations don't have constitutional rights, and certainly corporations should not be giving money in elections. The fact that Dunkin' Donuts has a super PAC is ridiculous.
It's terrifying.
And they're not the only ones, right?
Yeah.
Corporations are amassing great profits, and they're using it to pervert our electoral process. They are really stealing our sacred right to govern ourselves, Matt, and that's just illegitimate.
Mm-hmm. There was a recent study that came out that showed that people could be in favor 70% or more of a particular agenda, and it didn't matter. It only mattered what
The rich.
the rich 1% and 1/10 of 1% really had to say about that particular issue.
That
It was just black and white.
it is, and what's really interesting, of course, is that was a study that came out of Yale University,
Right.
And it basically concluded that the United States is actually not a functioning democratic republic. It works as an oligarchy. The very wealthy actually control public policy. And I'm glad that Yale University conducted a rigorous scientific study to conclude that. But I'll tell you, Matt, they could have gone to any barber shop or coffee shop.
Mm-hmm.
They could have gone down to the local Dunkin' Donuts and asked any working class person and come to the same conclusion. We know it. That's what's happening. You know what's interesting? That's why both the Occupy movement and the Tea Party movement exist. Because ordinary people from both the left and the right are just outraged and frankly pissed off about the fact that we don't have a functioning democracy in this country.
So,
This is it's Florida, so it's beautiful weather. So we
I
decided
forgot
to
my sunglasses, and we're outside, but we still have airplanes to worry about, and other things that are outside. We might have a squirrel come visit us or something. My biggest concern, and I think it's a lot with the Tea Party's concern as well, is that we have corporations like Walmart, like McDonald's, that are in existence because we have food stamps, we have all kinds of things like that to basically supplement the income that they should be paying their employees, and they're getting away with that because they're able to put the right people in office to say, you know, we're gonna keep the minimum wage low so that the government still has to pay out. So now you have the middle and very little of the high upper class actually contributing to that. So in a way, we're subsidizing these businesses for part of their paycheck.
Matt,
And
it's not in a way. We are, in fact.
Yeah.
Taxpayers like me, I'm a taxpayer, I presume you are as well.
Sometimes.
Well, every taxpayer is actually subsidizing corporate America through the use of these subsidies. And I think it's important to recognize this, like the idea of a market economy. Corporations and the wealthy are literally dictating the terms of the market. We don't actually experience what a fair and free market would actually look like, where we trade goods and services based on a competitive market. I mean, again, I actually think that there is a way to have a democratic Republican form of government where individual rights are respected, but we control corporations. And by the way, the founders of the American political system believed that as well. They tightly controlled the political nature of the corporation. So again, it's worth pointing out the move to amend is uniting liberals, conservatives, moderates, and radicals. Democrats, Republicans, Greens, Libertarians alike are joining this cause because this is a principle of self-government. It's actually not an issue.
And when one ruling affects over 100 different laws that have been enacted since then, I mean, there's almost no one that doesn't touch.
Correct.
You know, in one way or another.
And let's be honest, Matt, this Roberts Court is the most activist court in modern memory. And by that I mean, you know, the principal conservatives frequently decry judicial activism. Judges should not legislate from the bench.
Yeah.
They should simply follow the law
Uphold
and
the
interpret the law and uphold the Constitution. This court created Citizens United. This court created the McCutcheon decision. This court legislated from the bench and changed the campaign finance laws of this country. Let me tell you something, Matt. The best way to protect the integrity of elections is up to the local community in local elections. It's up to the people of a state to decide through their political process. And Congress is tasked and charged, and we vote for them, and they are responsible to us. The point is, campaign finance laws are political decisions. They should be subject to the political process. And then you let the local community decide. Do you want full publicly funded elections, or do you want to let unlimited amounts of money in elections? Do you want to say all the money can come in, but you just have to have disclosure? Do you want to say that you can only give money in an election if you can vote in that election? The point is, there are lots of very plausible ways, and one could make a plausible argument for any one of the systems that I've just described. I personally prefer publicly funded elections. Let's get corporate money out, let's get union money out, let's get Soros money out, let's get Adelson money out.
Yeah.
Get all the money out and have a debate, right? But that's my position, right? It's a political position. Here's the thing. If the court can overturn campaign finance laws, they are overturning the will of the people through the legislative process and imposing their own will. You see?
Yeah.
I mean, this is the thing. This is the antithesis of what principal conservatives say they expect judges to do. This court is engaged in judicial activism, and it's illegitimate.
Yeah, without a doubt. It seems like they're just, you know, writing the laws like right there with ALAC and all those different...
That's right. The American Legislative Exchange Council, and we can actually see examples of how the American Legislative Exchange Council has, by the way, I'm not making this up, they literally host completely free vacation junkets for elected officials in either a particular state or a particular county. They pay for the legislators to come. They pay for their spouses and their children to come to these high-end resorts, all expenses paid, travel, food, everything, and then they present legislation to, quote, persuade legislators to carry this back to their states to do it.
I wish I could afford that. Because, I mean, I would just call my local senator or representative and, you know, have them over for coffee and tea, but that's about all I can do.
Well, there you go. I mean, I wonder if you could get your, you know, your U.S.
I wonder
senator.
if Rick Scott would come over for some donuts.
Yeah, that's right. Here's the challenge. Rick Scott.
You want to come over for some donuts?
And let's have a conversation about the role of money in elections and corporate power in the state of Florida, and we'll have a conversation. I'll buy the coffee. Matt will supply the donuts.
I'll happily supply the donuts. I love donuts. So, is there anything else you'd like to add? What do you think our country looks like whenever we make an amendment to overturn Citizens United? What kind of changes would you probably see almost instantly in regards to things that have high popularity but don't get
Right.
you know,
I mean,
that aren't ethically challenged at all?
Right. I mean, I think you just nailed it, right? What we're going to see is the United States of America function as a democratic republic where laws actually reflect majority opinions. Here's the other thing I think we would see almost immediately. Trust in elections. You know, if you look at the polling data, the American people have lost confidence in the integrity of the electoral system. And it's well it's well-earned distrust.
It's interesting that 10% of our Senate and House have a high approval rating. 10%.
Right.
But they got reelected?
Correct. Think about that. Right.
And it's like pretty blatant.
It's
right?
blatant.
Like, we don't really have to like get into any more numbers after that.
No,
it's
that's
like
right.
10% of the people agree with you. However, you got reelected.
How did that happen? And again, it's the corrupting influence of money in elections. So you get the money out of the elections, and we can actually have a public discourse and actually find where our agreement is. And one of the things that's interesting to me, Matt, is, and I often bring this up, the Occupy Wall Street movement and the Tea Party movement, there's actually a lot of similarity there.
A lot of layover.
A lot of layover. Now, you do have to take out the virulent immigrant racist element of the Tea Party, which is actually a small number of the Tea Party members.
Oh, absolutely.
But they're very vocal. They're very loud.
Yeah.
And the left
like
loves
ISIS,
the left love to actually point at those idiots and say, that's the Tea Party.
Yeah.
I got news for you.
Yeah.
If you take out the loud, burn it down crowd of Occupy, which exists, but they're a small portion of it, actually.
Yeah.
The right likes to pretend like that's the only thing that Occupy exists. But the point is, if you take out the very small, very loud outliers of both Occupy and Wall Street, here's what you find. A mass movement of people who are angry that Wall Street America has taken over government and are issuing government policies against the will of the majority to benefit Wall Street.
And the government is going right along with it.
The government,
that's the biggest problem.
That's absolutely right. And here's the thing, Matt. At the conclusion, Move to Mend began with 12 people in a living room. We're 400,000 people today and growing every day. We've helped 16 states pass resolutions of support of our amendment. We've helped 600 local communities pass resolutions by their city council or county government. We've put it on the ballot 300 times.
Wow.
We've won every single one of them.
I'd imagine.
And get this, we won in San Francisco and Boston, the liberal places. We won in Salt Lake City, Utah. We won in Devlin, Wisconsin. Why do I mention Devlin? That's the hometown of Republican Tea Party Governor Scott Walker. They haven't voted for a Democrat for president or Congress in 40 years in Devlin. Move to Mend was on the ballot, and we won. We won in Montana in a statewide initiative. Yeah, Matt, that Montana, right? The most politically, culturally conservative place in the country. We won by 76% of the vote. When I say that this movement is uniting people across ideologies, that's not just rhetoric. It's actually true, and it's true by objective numbers and polling data, including election results.
I was going to say, I think that is where, to bring up Bernie Sanders, speaks to a lot of people. He goes right across the party lines. He's able to, you know what I mean? Like, he's able to get people to back him based on Citizens United alone.
Well, it's interesting. I will say this about Bernie Sanders, that he terrifies both the 1% and the leadership of the Democratic Party. Let that sink in for a moment.
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders terrifies the 1% and the leaders of the Democratic National Committee. That says something right there. Here's another thing that you can do. I challenge your viewers to do this. Find the video online of Bernie Sanders speaking 20, 30 years ago. And you can find them. Find speeches that he gave 20, 30 years ago. Play it. Then play a recent speech. Dude hasn't changed.
Not at all.
Not
even a little.
I mean,
I love Bernie, but I've heard all his speeches like a million times.
Yeah, it's the same speech.
I can't listen to it anymore. I love you. I love your ideas, but good Lord. Mix it up.
I'm just saying. No remix for Bernie.
No remix?
No remix for Bernie.
The remix is always worse, isn't it?
I'm just saying, Bernie Sanders is the most consistent politician, elected official I've ever met, I've ever heard in my life. And, so if you are concerned about wealth inequality, if you think that the rich are controlling us, if you think that the millionaire class needs to be reined in, you owe it to yourself to take a look at Bernie. It's just that simple.
Would you endorse Bernie?
Listen, as Move to Amend, I am not allowed to endorse any candidate. However, candidates can endorse us. So, go and find out and ask Bernie what he thinks about money in elections. Ask Bernie what he thinks about corporate power and corporate constitutional rights. So that's my challenge to you, Bernie. Come on with Donuts with Matt. This time, Matt will buy the coffee.
Yep.
Yeah?
Yep.
I'll buy the donuts.
David can buy the donuts.
And we'll have a conversation. And, 20 minutes with Bernie. I think that it would be worth viewing.
That would be interesting. Yeah. I'd have a lot of fun with that.
All right. I bet you would.
Yeah. Well, this has been Donuts with Matt and Mr. David Cobb with Move to Amend. If you want any more information, what's your website?
www.movetwoamend.org, or you can give us a call, 707-269-0984. And if Matt is like really good and he has a Cracker Jack production crew, it might be appearing somewhere down here. Do y'all do that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So somewhere in this general area.
Yeah, maybe right here. I think I like it better right
You
here.
like it right there,
Yeah.
right above the donuts.
Little flashes going on.
A little
something
flash. Oh,
cheesy like
nice.
that. I can get cheesy with it.
Get cheesy with
I'm gonna
it.
get cheesy with it. All right, we're gonna eat some donuts now. Thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll have some more of these coming up. Maybe Rick Scott, maybe Bernie Sanders.
We got invitations out.
Let's get Jeb Bush on here too.
Let's do it.
I want to talk to that guy because it's interesting. As much as we've talked about money influencing politics, someone raised so much money has like less than 3%.
That'd be a good conversation.
You know, like that's an interesting counter argument.
Yeah.
You know, like with all the money that guy had, he just couldn't outbuy his brother's
his legacy.
Legacy. Yeah. So anyway,
All right.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Shaking your hand.
Yeah, thank you so much.